Hello everyone and welcome to episode 8 of Under the Skin. This series is all about taking a look at the meaning behind the names of the legendary skins in Battlefield 1. I'm your host Christopher, the video game historian, and this week I'm going to take a look at the legendary skins for the Lewis gun, Gewehr 98, the MP18, and finally the single player skin for the Fiamme Verdi. Starting off first is going to be the Rattlesnake Skin for the Lewis gun. Similar to a few other skins that I've done in the past, the Rattlesnake isn't a reference to a place, event, battle, or unit, though it is the symbol for the Harlem Hellfighters of World War I. The Rattlesnake actually refers to the gun itself. The Lewis gun earned its nickname as the Belgian Rattlesnake due to its rapid fire, maneuverability, and accuracy when the Belgians first used it in the war. Now the Lewis gun has quite an interesting history to it, as it was invented in 1911 by an American U.S. Army Colonel, Isaac Newton Lewis, which he had chambered around the .303 British round. The Army never adopted it, particularly due to the personal and political differences between Lewis and the Chief of the Ordnance Department. Being that the U.S. didn't adopt the weapon, Lewis went abroad to Belgium, where he produced the gun commercially. The Birmingham Small Arms Company in England was also in talks about producing the rifle, but not before the Belgian Army officially adopted it. Seeing the success of the weapon, the US Navy, Marine Corps, and even the Coast Guard would embrace the gun beginning in 1917 and modify it for the .30-06 Springfield round. The French and British would fit the gun onto their aircrafts with a 97-round drum magazine and incendiary rounds. It was so impressive that Russia would order 20,000 of these guns, and even German machine gun crews would write booklets on how to operate the weapon after they captured it. Meanwhile, the US Army kept holding on to their bar, and production for the Lewis gun stopped in 1946. Next up is the Kaiserschlacht skin for the MP18. Now, I did do a full video on the Kaiserschlacht battle in a previous Real History of video, but if you haven't seen it, then no worries. The Kaiserschlacht was a German spring offensive launched on March 21st, 1918. It would be their last major attack against the Allies, with the goal to capture the railway hub at Amiens in hopes of pushing back the British and potentially turning the tide of the war. The battle opened with a 5-hour bombardment of 2 million shells landing on the British positions. While the Germans did put up a strong attack against the Allies and eventually making it all the way to the gates of Amiens, their supply line ran dry and could not keep up, forcing the Germans to run out. Coupled with Allied reinforcements, the Germans would be stopped at the Battle of Villers-Bretonneux, forcing General Ludendorff to call off the offensive on April 5th. The Kaiserschlacht ultimately marked the beginning of the end for the Germans. Third is going to be the skin you unlock for the Fiamme Verdi through the single player mission, Avanti Savoia, for collecting all the field manuals and completing all the challenges. This is the Fiamme Verdi skin, which literally translates out to Green Flames, and they were patches worn on the collars of the Alpini mountain troops of the Italian army. Formed in 1872 to protect the northern mountainous borders of Italy from Austria and France, the Alpini have become an elite corps in the Italian army and predates other such units such as the Chasseurs Alpines of France and the Alpen Corps of Germany. In fact, they are the oldest mountain infantry unit in the world. During World War I, they fought up in the mountains against the Austrians and their mountain infantry troops, and the battles fought there were typically called the War in Ice and Snow, with each army occupying nearly every inch of the mountain tops. Despite having 400,000 mobilized in the war, the Alpini would suffer roughly 120,000 in casualties. After the war, many of their battalions would be dissolved and their numbers reduced. Finally, the last skin for this episode is going to be the Kaiser Skin for the Gewehr 98. This is the third skin that could be a reference to King Wilhelm II, since Kaiser means emperor in German. Since I went over him with the Prussian skin in a previous video, and turning tides just around the corner, I'm going to take a look at the Kaiser class battleships of the German Hochseeflotte. This class was a major advancement in Germany's battleship design, as they were the first to be powered by turbine engines, which increased their speeds up to 22 knots. They were the largest class of Germany's capital ships, and were the center of their fleet. Like the other classes of battleships, there were 5 ships in all: the Kaiser, the Friedrich der Grosse, the Kaiserin, the König Albert, and the Prinzregent Luitpold, and all built between 1911 and 1912. They saw service at Jutland as well as in the Baltic in 1917, and all survived the war. Their crews were made up of 41 officers and 1,043 enlisted men. They had a main battery of 10 35mm 50 caliber guns on 5 dual turrets, and a secondary battery of 14 150mm 45 caliber single casement mount guns, along with anti-air weapons and torpedoes. After the war, they were surrendered and scudded at Scapa Flow with the others. That's all for this week's episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and leave your thoughts down below. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media with Twitter and Facebook, and if you'd like to play with some of the best of the worst players in Battlefield 1, myself included, please check out the Forum Fielders Platoon on PC, Xbox One, and PS4, and you too can play with some amazing people. Don't forget to check them out on Twitter as well, and remember, you're not worse, just late. See you on the battlefield.
Halfway there, keep it up.